Tēnā koutou katoa, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. E haere ake nei.
I think the Labour announcement is a continuation of what they've signalled already.
Plans to address the lack of health workers in New Zealand won't be enough, according to a Pacific doctor. Also, large-scale logging continues in PNG despite government opposition. And then later,
once we have the payment solution, we then have other products and services that will be coming along, such as rideshare, food ordering.
a new super app for the Pacific is being developed. In a month's time, New Zealanders go to the polls and leaders of both major parties, Labour and National, have been campaigning. But meanwhile, a Pacific health professor says both Labour and National's plans to address the chronic health worker shortage doesn't go far enough. Both parties have pledged to increase the workforce if elected. An extra 95 doctors under Labour and 50 under National. Auckland University Medical School Pacific Associate Dean Collin Tukuitonga told Lydia Lewis the plans only make a small dent in a gaping hole.
Both announcements are welcomed. I think the country has been crying out for some years now with regard to the shortage of doctors and nurses, and so these are very good announcements. I should say that, in fact, Labour announced 50 new additional places as of 2024. 30 of which will come to us in Auckland and 20 to Otago. We've prioritised Maori, Pacific and rural students. And the addition, and the 95 you mentioned, I think goes on for 3 years. And so it's a significant increase. I don't know what the allocation from National is like in terms of the distribution, but concerned, of course, that the ACT party, if they're in coalition with the National Party, has signalled their intention to do away with affirmative action policies like what we have at MAPAS in Auckland. So the announcements are to be welcomed. Clearly the details are different. I think the Labour announcement is a continuation of what they've signalled already.
What exactly is ACT going to do away with, and what impact will that have?
Well, ACT has signalled their intention to do away with the ethnic-based program. My understanding is that ACT is against any ethnic-based affirmative action type activities. We're yet to see, of course, how that will pan out. But if that were to happen, it is a concern from my point of view, because obviously we need affirmative actions to try to remedy the chronic inequities and shortage of Maori and Pacific health professionals in New Zealand.
Of the announcements from both Labour and National, do they go far enough to address those needs?
Oh, no, they don't. I mean, the Pacific share of the 15,000 medical workforce in New Zealand is less than 2%. So this will lift it, no question. But if you think about the share of the population, the Pacific proportion of the workforce, if it was to address the diversity in our population, should be 10%, and we're still only at 2%. But as I say, it is a step forwards, but we're a long way away from what's equitable and what's needed in terms of the population share.
What could National or Labour do to further address those issues?
The announcement was specifically around workforce, and it is one of the critical issues for our health system. In terms of the broader health policies, I'm not aware of any. There's some concern in the health media about National wanting to reduce health funding to frontline services. People are always concerned, of course, about the market-orientated ideology that the National Party tend to have in privatising health care. And so I guess there will be those ongoing concerns. I'm not aware of any of Labour's broader announcements with regard to health and funding for healthcare providers.
What would you like to know? What information is lacking from both parties?
The community and healthcare providers would want to know what parties intend to do, particularly in relation to primary care, access to GP services and other services. That's the fundamental issue. People are concerned that they're having trouble getting access to GPs. Shortage of GPs means clinics are closing their books. So that's a primary concern. What do the parties plan to do with regard to access to primary care? Mental health and well-being is a chronic concern. I understand that Labour's announcements include additional places for psychiatry training. I am not aware of any other announcements from the National Party with regard to access to care. I think the fact that senior doctors have gone on strike tells me that our health system is indeed under severe strain, and I would like to see political parties, make statements about how they intend to relieve the pressure on doctors and access to health care, and generally increasing investment in our health system, which appears to be struggling.
How would you sum up the action or lack of action on this issue from both sides so far?
Well, clearly something needs to happen. I would like to see a direct response from political parties in relation to the senior doctors on strike. I'm aware that there will still be policies that are perhaps yet to be announced, but I'd like to see a direct response from the political parties with regard to how they intend to address the concerns shown by the senior doctors. This is a significant development in healthcare in New Zealand. I'm not aware of senior doctors going on strike ever. And so there needs to be a response. What do the political parties intend to do to relieve the pressure on senior doctors, relieve pressure on emergency departments, improve access and funding for primary care, and address the chronic strain that health professionals are under?
A Papua New Guinea advocacy group, Act Now, and Jubilee Australia says forest clearance authorities granted in PNG are being abused. The FCAs allow limited clearance of forest for agricultural or other land use, but the environmental groups say foreign logging companies are using them as backdoor access to PNG's pristine tropical rainforest. Act Now Eri Tanago told Don Wiseman about what they found in a case study into the Wami Rural Development Project, which is the result of an FCA held by Malaysian logging company Global Elite Limited.
The Forest Clearing Authority, or we call it as initials by way of FCA, is one of the licenses that are used for agriculture. But what we have realized is that these FCAs have been unlawfully used to facilitate large-scale logging operations by foreign-owned logging companies. And this is being found out in a collaborative research done by Jubilee Australian and Act Now. In this particular case study, we've looked at this particular project called the Wami Logging Operation, the Wami FCA, where this Malaysian company has used an FCA which is intended to allow for land clearing for agriculture or any other land use. Instead, it used it as a front, and we've seen hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of round logs being exported. Now, this particular operation has been going on for almost 10 years, and this company has sold out more than $31 million worth of round logs.
And they got hold of this land by making a commitment to establish an agricultural project.
Yes, because an FCA is intended for that. You either do a particular clearing or small clearing for agriculture or other land use. And instead, in the last 10 years, they've harvested more than 31 million US dollars worth of logs, round logs, which were exported. And no promised palm oil or rubber plantation has ever been planted on the land.
Is there any sign that is going to happen at some point?
Well, we've gone past it because there's supposed to be a plan that says that, okay, we clear a certain area of land. We clear it, we plant the promised palm oil or rubber plantation. And then once that's done, the plants have reached up to a certain stage and then they move to the next. As it is now, it's past 10 years and it's just only logging that's happening. Not only that, but we have a satellite imagery that shows that there's been extensive clearing without any planting of any agricultural crops.
Did they knock everything down, or are they just taking selected trees?
Yes, it's just clearing. It's just clearing at the moment that's happening. It's worse than what it's supposed to be.
This land, it's in a destructive state.
It is. It is at the moment. Also, this particular FCA as well was subject to the SABL Commission of Inquiry in 2013. And it was evident in the findings of the commission that, people's free, prior and informed consent was never given. Also, there was this compelling evidence of non-compliance with the processes that are required under the laws for the granting of an SABL or an FCA.
So they're on the land illegally anyway.
It is. That's what it seems, given the nature of its operations and the findings that we've gathered so far.
This is just one of a number like this across the country. How many do you think of these rorts are going on right now?
Currently, apart from the WAMI project, in total, there are about 24 active ones that are currently under this particular license or particular forest clearing authority. And huge numbers have been exported out at the moment. When we put all those together, this actively exporting FCAs cover an average area of about 61,800 hectares of forest. And that's equivalent to about 11,000 football fields. Yeah. So that's really, really massive. That's really, really massive.
So what should happen, Eddie?
We are calling on the Forest Board and the PNG Forest Authority to extend the current moratorium on the new FCAs. There was one that was announced in the beginning of this year that says that they were not going to issue any new FCAs. Okay, we want that to extend. We want logging in all these existing FCAs to be also suspended, and there should be a comprehensive public review of these projects. Now, we also have the current government's commitment to ending round log exports. And just recently this year, the Marape government has launched the Medium-Term Development 4. And it also caters for the promises to end round log export by 2025. Now, as per our analysis into this particular MTDP plan, or Medium-Term Development Plan 4, and then looking at the current export rate that's happening, the log export volumes now are currently very high. And the PNG Forest Authority is really failing to meet the reduction targets as set down in the medium-term plan. This is in breach of the targets that are set out by the government, plus also the promises that we've seen, like the recent one being made by Prime Minister Marape when the French president was around, is that Papua New Guinea should be looking at preserving the rainforest and reducing deforestation. It's not happening the way how it's being preached at the moment. So there should be really a serious look into practically trying to reduce the export volumes, which the MTDP 4 is looking at, but in practice, it's not happening the way it's supposed to be.
Attempts by RNZ Pacific to get any response from Global Elite Limited have been unsuccessful. A new super app is being developed in the Pacific that will allow people to make instant money transactions, including for remittances. Called Smarty, that app also plans to have a rideshare and cryptocurrency feature. The founder and CEO, Brett Bordenay, who is planning on launching in the Cook Islands in a few months, speaks with Caleb Fotheringham.
So Smarty is what we call a super app, right? So everyone's obviously familiar with apps. So what this is a super app essentially is powered by a payment solution, kind of digital wallet system. And that is the backbone of what we have. And based off of that, we can have multiple products, or as such, mini apps, right, within the single application, which then makes it a super app. So Once we have the payment solution, we then have other products and services that will be coming along, such as rideshare, food ordering, cryptocurrencies, marketplaces, et cetera, et cetera. So we will continue to add products on that we see that the locals, as well as the tourists that are visiting our Pacific Islands, will need and can easily pay for all of those services as well.
So the backbone is this payment system.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is obviously you have a digital wallet within your Smarty account and you can add funds to that. You can also load up your card into the account so you can utilize that as well. And then from there you can go around and do shopping and spending and then also utilize all the other mini apps, so to say, within the app, our products as well. So yeah, you'll be able to pretty much do everything in your daily spending. And I mean, a big thing where this came up, so my business partner, Jimmy Glassy, is actually from 35 years in the banking industry. In short, when I showed him what we were doing, he knew straight away that this was going to be obviously a very popular product that's going to be used across the Pacific, because we've had this challenge for years. It goes back to 2008 when I built the first e-commerce website in the South Pacific. In the Cook Islands, I should say. Back then, the only payment solution we had was PayPal. And now you fast forward 15 years later, and guess what? The only payment solution we really have that's quick and easy to implement is PayPal. So nothing much has changed, and the issue with that is PayPal requires that you have to have a business registered in New Zealand and a bank account. That's the only way they can pay out the funds. There is no solution within the Pacific Islands. So everyone's kind of had the challenge of not being able to easily pay each other very quickly and instantly. Obviously now everyone's got a phone in their hand, so not being able to utilize that technology we already hold, and as well as to be able to take online payments as well. It's always been a big challenge and an issue that not just the locals and businesses have, but it's also the tourists that come through and not able to easily make payments for products or book ahead of time. And now we're trying to provide that solution that will resolve all of those issues.
What Smarty is trying to achieve, has this been done in different markets around the world?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel. The super app concept is very big overseas, not even in New Zealand, Australia yet, but it is in the Southeast Asian countries. So the big ones out there are Grab and Gojek, which are very, very massive across Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia, etc. And then in Europe, you've got the likes of Revolut, N26, Monzo. So there are massive super app products that are out there that are in sort of the financial tech space. And we're trying to bring those concepts here, but we have to custom build them because obviously we're lacking in infrastructure here with internet services specifically. We're kind of customizing it to fit with our market, and it's been 2.5 years we've been developing it, so it's been a long time, and now we're pretty much right at the finish line, about to launch it to market soon.
When do you think you'll launch it?
We always get asked this, and I hate answering because in the tech space there's always moving parts, but in the coming months is what we're planning to get it out to market. For us, especially in fintech, you don't necessarily have to have a license as such, right? People also ask us, like, are you a bank? We're not actually a bank. That's the beauty of what we're doing. A fintech is just a financial service provider. So it's sort of similar in New Zealand. You don't have to have a banking license as such because we're not giving loans. We're not offering the interest. That's when you do have to go down that avenue. And that's where there's a lot of hurdles and a lot of red tape, right? So the idea for us is we're trying to provide a financial solution that it's quick and easy to sign up. You literally can do it on your phone within 2 minutes, and then you're off and away, and you can start shopping and spending everywhere you go. It's been a long road to get to where we are, but we're very close now to launching.
Thousands of young people have been performing at Otago Polyfest this week, marking 30 years of celebrating Maori and Pacific culture. More than 140 early childhood centres and schools, from toddlers to teens, are taking part in this year's festival in Dunedin, featuring kapahaka and Pasifika performances. Alicia Foon has the story.
An audience full of family and friends beaming with Polyfest pride. Otago Polyfest is one of the oldest festivals in Aotearoa, promoting Indigenous culture, language and arts across the Pacific. More than 4,500 rangatahi are taking part, the youngest just 3 years old. Performances range from kapahaka to song and dance from Fiji, Cook Islands, Niue, Samoa and Solomon Islands. Festival director Tania Moangatutia says the 30th anniversary is about recognising Indigenous legacy in the South Island.
Our Pasifika families that came here from the 1940s, the generation of our parents are now passing away. This festival honours the generations by the families that are here, that have come through the festival as babies, performing, volunteering, now working, now leading. They're part of the team now. It's incredible that it's 30 years.
Pesa Minotili is a prime example. He's been to almost every Otago Polyfest since it first began in 1993, when it was only a half-day event.
Yeah, I have been around for a long time. It's funny because one of the kids asked me, are you Polyfest? Because they saw the name on my T-shirt. I said, have you been here for 30 years? I said, well, almost.
Mr. Tilly's role has changed over the years, first performing and now leading team performances, as well as stage managing for the week-long event. He says Polyfest helped him embrace being Samoan during a time when speaking the language in New Zealand was frowned upon.
Particularly for us early migrants, because I was originally born in Samoa, one of the things that we really struggled with was actually being included, and this helps us to be included.
After St. Joseph's Catholic School gave their performance, some of them shared why they loved taking part.
You get to express your culture and your beliefs and stuff. It's exciting because it's just showing how you do your dances back in the islands.
I like performing because you can just express your emotions and your feelings and your culture, really.
Volunteer teacher Melissa Chanmal says there's been a lot of hard work in the lead-up.
We have 23 students. We've been practicing for 20 weeks, so that's over 2 terms. We've woken up at 8 a.m. on Wednesday mornings to practice, so during the winter, the harshest time in Dunedin as well. It's been a lot of work, been a lot of practice and a lot of perseverance. Mum Laurie Tuia V.E. Maxwell couldn't be more proud of her daughter Freya, performing with St. Joseph's Catholic School.
I'm going to get emotional thinking about it because it just means a lot to see her getting involved in her culture and expressing herself that way. It's just a beautiful thing. I came from Porirua in Wellington where there's lots of Pacific culture around, but it's not as present here, so it's beautiful seeing all the different schools celebrating.
Iconic Pacific musicians Arija wrap up the festival tonight to mark the final day of this year's Otago Polyfest.
That's Pacific Waves for today. Don't forget you can listen back on rnzi.com/programs. We're also on Apple, Spotify and iHeartRadio podcasts. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, Tō whāsui fua.